this company called God Behind Bars. Have y'all seen it?
No.
God Behind Bars
Yeah, I seen it.
has arranged their father-daughter dance at San Quentin. These men had waited 20 years to some men had waited 20 years to see their children, and
Mm-hmm.
these daughters had never had a father-daughter dance.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I looked at these black men that were locked up 10 years, 20 years, I commented, okay? And I'm just going to put it right up here because honey, y'all just came for me in the comments, okay? I saw this 16 fathers reincarcerated with their reunited 16 incarcerated fathers reunited with their daughters for a daddy dance in San Quentin prison. And I said, wow, the government has stolen the lives of these black men and stolen these fathers from their daughter. Thank God for this one day. They deserve this and more. And honey, the comments went off. They was like stolen. I mean, what did they just do? They walked down there and they got into prison. No, they didn't walk down there and get into prison. A lot of people did do the crime, okay? But when I think about how unfairly sentenced black men are, for crimes, if first of all, none of these men, they can participate if they're on death row. So none of these men are on death row, okay? Clearly none of these men are child molesters because they
Mm-hmm.
wouldn't be able to participate then. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Uh so that's really where I was coming from when I commented this. But that's the question I want to talk about with these black men that I have the privilege of talking to today. What should be the maximum prison sentence? Certainly, if you took somebody's dad out yourself,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely want you to serve the time. The guy who molested me, I would definitely not want to see him come out. But I mean, when am I going to also get over it too? Because, people sometimes, I don't know if molesters can be reformed, but in the kingdom, we believe everybody can be reformed
Everybody can get
somehow, some
reformed,
way.
right?
But I just do feel like, let's discuss prison sentencing because certainly black men, like one guy was in there for 20 years. One guy said that his daughter was one when he went in there and
Mm-hmm.
she was now 19 years old. What could you have possibly done where you're spending you couldn't be reformed in 19 years? So I want to just see that right there. What should be the maximum prison sentence for black men? Because it to me, it's I just hated. I do feel like when I look at black men, maybe the prison did save some of their lives. They found God, they did whatever, but like I
Yeah.
still feel like they were stolen. But people were like accountability. Black women don't make black men be accountable. People was going off in the comments, honey. But
Mm-hmm.
Cal, go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah. Prison saved prison. I mean, even though they had daughters, prison probably saved their life that they was able to in 19 years see their daughters. I
Mm,
mean, prison saves more black men than families. Because I mean, what do black
mm,
men do? What do black men do when they come home from prison? They get a
mm,
job doing something. They know how to read. They know how to write. They got their diploma. They know
mm,
they read a book.
mm,
They care about family. If they would have been out here,
mm,
they don't care about that. They prison has set them down to realize what's most important. Yeah,
mm.
you might have some people who go off the rocker, but in most in the case, if somebody served 20 years, it's probably instilled in him now what's important. And
Mm,
prison saved him to be able to see. He's working out.
mm,
He's healthy. He ain't on dope. He ain't on crack. He ain't killing nobody.
mm,
He's in a room and board that we gotta pay for as taxpayers. But never mind that. So, what if he killed somebody and then he had an 18-year sentence, and then when he get out in 20 years, yeah, he got his daughter, but the other family don't got their son.
no, and that's what somebody said in the comments.
Mm-hmm.
Should they be out even though somebody else daddy might be gone? And I do feel like that too. That girl probably
It it will.
feels like he should never get out.
I
I
just think
think once you
go ahead,
Go
Jimmy.
ahead, Jamel.
I think once you do your time, I think once you do your time, that's your time. Um, as far as your question, Dale, like how much time should people get? Like that. I don't know, but I think that's in one ways that's how they have the parole system. I
Murder.
think. I mean, some people do murder. They do might do 10 years on murder charge.
Yeah,
Mm,
so it depends on the circumstances.
So it depends. I mean, like as far as parole goes, I mean, I don't think there's one simple answer for that
mm,
for any of that
mm.
because the larger question or the larger problem is why people commit these crimes
And that's
and
why I feel like they have been
what's the
stolen.
situation in our
That's
society
why
that
I
like
feel like the government has stolen. Because the thing about it too is, a lot of times, and I'm not a woe is me. I'm not a victim type of person. Everybody has grown up and they got their own problems or whatever. But this country is definitely setting up traps for black men.
sure
Setting up things. You had the Crips be created. The Crips was there to be a positive organization. The government made them change the name. Then because the Black Panthers had started that organization, the sons of the Black Panthers had started that organization. Then they started putting out drugs in the neighborhood. This is from the FBI. Like, so when you think about, and that's what I meant by stolen. Like, like you set them up, you deny them jobs, you do so many things, and then you be like, okay, well, you need to be accountable for. Now, when you look at the other side of it, a lot of people are in these traps and they don't do a thing. You know what I'm saying? They go to school, they
They
get out
don't
of
do
it, make
nothing.
it out of it, you know. But I do feel like a lot of them, the resilience you have to have amongst the temptation that they are specifically setting up for you. You know what I'm saying? They're
yes
not setting up the traps for the white teenagers. You know what I'm saying? They're
okay.
setting up the traps to catch a slave again. So let me get to the question, y'all. The question was, what should be the maximum prison sentence for people that are incarcerated? Certainly some of these fathers, 20 years they have stayed in there, 18 years. What y'all think about the whole thing? That's the question I came up
Uh,
with, but you know what I'm trying to go ahead,
Life,
Cal. Life.
life,
Life.
life,
Ooh.
life.
cal is
I
Cal is
mean,
vying
I
for
mean,
his
but
seat
but
on
just think,
on the jury.
think about it. If you took a life, you do life. At least you can. Your mama still can call you. At least you
Mm,
can get phone calls from your daughter,
yeah,
your
no,
son.
no.
The other
I mean,
family got to go to the graveyard. So
oh,
it's we not taking your life. Presumably, you're just sitting down somewhere in a maximum security jailhouse where you get to eat, you get to
mm,
die of old age,
mm,
or
mm.
got.
Ooh,
So you're just living, but you're not eating what you
what if
want.
you didn't? What if you didn't create? What if you didn't? What if you did on a lot? I looked up that San Quentin used to be. It was San Quentin is the only death row facility, so that's
Uh
why
huh.
it used to be the most the murderers and the heaviest crimes. But a lot of people locked up for drug charges. What about drug charges? How
Drug,
much time you think?
drug charges is a and I think you can relate. I think you're going on 50 years. God bless that. Louisiana and Little Rock and those type of states, drugs back in the day will get you locked up for a long time. But here it is. I believe if you really don't do it, you like nobody's telling you to go do it. So whatever drug it is, in some countries, go to Dubai. Do the same thing you do in California and Dubai or Indonesia. You could lose your hand. They could cut off. Do it to North Korea. In North Korea, they could. Kim Jong don't just punish you. He punishes 10 generations after you. So when you're born in jail for 10
Mm,
generations.
mm,
And they have CDOT. CDOT's the
mm,
most maximum security down in the world's capital, the worst capital of the world. CDOT is where Trump is sending prisoners. They have no cover. They sleep on a steel mat. It fits 80 people. They use one restroom, no privacy, no the lights is always on, and they was part of different gangs. They have nothing to fight about now, so you just put them all together. And
mm.
and the thing about once you enter this prison, Dale, you don't leave. You never leave. Once you in there, you're in there for life. Sleeping on a
So,
steel
and that's
seat.
what I'm talking about. You slave catching. You're not putting them in there to reform them. You're slave catching. And
That
that is what and that's where I feel like you stole them again. I'm back to the stolen because that's what happens is you're not like they're not just sitting in this room and then you just die off. No, you
Right.
let them make license plates. You're letting them make all your products. So they worthy to make your products. You can reform them enough to get a little trade going on,
No,
but you
no,
can't
no,
invest in the reformation.
and I agree with you 100%. The only thing is, how how can you reform? Tell Jeffrey Dahmer, hey man, go. You want to make some license plates?
No, okay, but that's what I'm talking about. The Jeffrey Dahmers, I don't know if you can be reformed.
No.
I'm talking about these black
right.
men selling, a pound of weed and,
Oh
and
yeah, they
and
could
two
be
kilos of
reformed. Yeah,
cocaine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because to me, a person getting 26 years, I know somebody that got 25 years for drugs. For drug,
yeah,
this is a
I do too.
non-violent crime. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? So to me, they're good enough to work and do all that and get pennies a day. Okay, but
Mm-hmm.
they're not good enough for you to invest. Now you're to invest anyway, okay? But they're not good enough for you to invest in the reformation of these people and put them back with their families in the, you know what I'm saying, in the
You-
regular
you- you- you-
population.
Some people do though. That's why you have parole. And some people are so institutionalized
Yes.
that when you put them in the
No,
street,
I feel you. I feel because
that,
I done dated a couple of institutionalized people
yeah,
too,
see, that's
Cal.
why.
Yeah.
See, that's why when you leave prison, they say we'll see you later.
Oh my
That's the key
God.
word when you leave prison. We'll see you later
And I think
Yes.
a
because
lot
they
of
know it's
people,
a revolving door.
I
They
think
know
that
it's a revolving door.
recidivism is a real thing, but
Yeah.
but I also think there are people who can be reformed. I,
Yeah.
I, I,
Yeah.
I'm dead set on that. Actually, I have family members who spend a lot of time in jail, and now they active members in society.
Yeah.
Um,
Wow.
It depends if you
you know,
want to take. It starts with the inside.
crime free. Exactly. And again,
And that's what
that's
this
why they have the
organization
parole
is.
system.
Yeah.
That's why they have the parole
See,
system. And
see,
like and
see,
like
see. What happens is on the inside, you always tell yourself, "I'm gonna change," and until the drugs, women, and freedom comes, and then you realize one slip, and you're right back where it was. Freedom is not free. It costs to be living out here.
that's why so many brothers find God while they in there. That's why so many
That's
come
why
out.
and that's the whole purpose of this
That's why the
organization.
NOI has so many reformed
Uh huh.
criminals because they whether they find Jesus or they find the Nation of Islam, they
They
find a
find
discipline.
something. Yeah.
They find a discipline in it because without discipline, even without discipline, while we only out here on the outside,
Yeah.
I mean, we might do
We
something, but
take a
we have
chance.
morals.
We take
We
a
have
chance.
morals, and
We have to have discipline whether we on the in or the outside. Okay, let me get to the comments. The comments was what should be the maximum prison sentence? 16 incarcerated fathers reunited with their daughters for a
Mm-hmm.
daughter daddy dance in prison, and I felt like their lives were stolen.
Mm-hmm.
But what say you? Let me get to the comments. And the comments said, um, it depends. It said it depends on what they did as far as sentencing. However, it's about the kids and the relationship they want to have with their father.
Mm-hmm.
Also, murder and manslaughter is two different things as far as law goes. Kay said true traps throughout our neighborhood. We have to be wise. Use the technical school programs. Learn to start a business after you have a trade. She said Cal is right. The other family has no living person to visit.
Yeah.
He is right about that. But I do feel like he is right about that. The other person has no family, um,
And you know
to
what? You
visit.
know what?
Wait, let
I'm
me read
sorry.
the
I'm sorry.
comments. Let me read
No,
the
I'm sorry,
comments.
girl. Yeah, yeah. Go
Yes,
ahead.
set black men up to fail for centuries from slavery. History has an impact on them from their
Mm-hmm.
ancestors. You said, LOL, we need an entire show on that right there. You got that right. I agree. Not everyone can be reformed. Cal, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
What was you gonna say?
Oh, and I was just saying, you know, even with drugs, you know, even if it's weed. or just anything. You never know how many people you affected in the community.
You've taken them out too. You've definitely
So you're
killed their
taking them
families
out,
too.
and stuff is laced.
Yes.
Stuff. So it don't matter if it's a Tylenol, a Xanax, or anything. People are losing their lives, and
Yes.
you would think it's meaningless. And
Yeah.
then one time you know if you're selling pounds of weed, I guarantee you did something that you should have been caught for, but you just haven't.
Mm.
Karma has a way of working itself
Mm.
out like that. All things
Mm.
will meet. All things will meet. Karma has a way of working itself out like that, and all things will meet at the end of the day. So just because you got caught with a pound of weed, ask them, hey, you sure you don't have no? I'm sure you because you can't have a high volume of what somebody else want without willing to die for it, and you got to be
Guys,
willing to kill for it. So I'm
guys,
guessing 9 times out of 10 something else happened years ago that they're not that they will go to their grave and say, but life has itself is working itself out like that. So be
don't y'all
happy,
dare let Cal pull up behind y'all on a Friday night. Y'all getting locked up.
go to jail free. Y'all going to jail because guess what? Because guess what? That ain't no. Hey, some people just they love going to jail. I just be like, I ain't.
No, and you know what? It did say that 75%, like, it said that
Yeah,
90% of the people are coming home.
yeah.
And and these were the stats for
Uh huh.
in fact, I have the stats right here with
Uh
these
huh.
people said guy behind bars. It said, oh no, this wasn't it. I don't know. It said, but I read it and it said 90% of the people were actually coming home, and
Yeah.
that 75% of them would return within 3 years.
Oh
And
Oh,
that's,
no.
I just don't want to believe that statistic. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But
What? Because that's all
anyway,
they
but
know. That's all
that's
they
all they know.
know.
They're
That's all they
because
know.
they're
So
not being
they're,
reformed.
they're
Because they're not being
institutionalized.
reformed. Yeah,
they're
but
Yeah.
also too because you're not reforming them. You're using them to get the
Oh yeah.
products out, but they're not being reformed.
Our prison system isn't set up to reform people. Our prison
no.
system is not set
It's
up for
set up
that.
to if you reform people, Dale,
They're
you
slave
take away a
catchers.
lot of you're gonna take away a lot of jobs. Just like if they stop putting people in jail for life, you think about it. A ticket is not a ticket. A ticket keeps that person who wrote the ticket. It keeps the person that you pay. It keeps the judge you go see. It keeps the probation officer off that one ticket. It keeps four
Mm.
people employed. You got to pay the cashier, the treasurer,
Wait, the
the cop who
probation
wrote you the
officer for the
ticket.
ticket.
Yeah, you got to see the judge, and the judge might say, "Oh man, you keep driving under suspension. They gave you a ticket. Now you got to pay the impound. That's five people off a $125 ticket. You just so if you take away all that, if you take away drugs and reform everybody, how many people are gonna start losing their jobs in those careers? They would
Well, I
never.
mean,
That's what.
I don't want you to have a job based on people's disenfranchisement. I want them to get a business and
Right.
get everything going too. And maybe y'all could be a coach for some of these kids to make sure they don't get in there. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
it'll
yeah.
always be jobs if it'll. Okay,
Facts.
I
guys,
agree with you.
guys,
I agree with you.
yes. Listen. First of
My
all,
phone's almost dead.
if you're looking at this on playback, guys, do me a favor, hit that subscribe button right now. We do this show each and every Tuesday, 7
Yes.
p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. I've got my two guests in the building, comedians, Jamel